Hello and welcome back to another episode of Up and In. I am, as always, Alex I. Black Elmore from coast to coast, going from the gridiron to the diamond. Thank you again for joining us on this Sunday evening. And with me, as always, is Chris Hackney. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm feeling good. How about you?
It's been a great weekend. I'm excited for this weekend, man. It's been great. I've been looking forward to, the Central gets dragged through the mud a lot. But we're going through these rosters today. I'm really excited for some of these young players that are coming up, and I don't know, man. I'm just ready to get this baseball. And we're only a couple weeks away from opening day. How the Phillies looking? How you feeling about the Phillies? Any big news from the Phillies this week you want to talk about?
Yeah, the Phillies extended Zach Wheeler. That was good. That was a very important move. Didn't let him get to free agency in the offseason. And it's a short deal for today's baseball, only a 3-year extension. So I like that. They're ready, primed and ready. Hopefully, they're not done. There's still a couple players out there I'd like to see them chase after.
Anybody in mind in particular that you want to throw out there, hoping maybe the Twitter sphere will get it going and maybe bring them to town?
I'd like Snell to get here. I think now with the Boris situation, he's tough to deal with, but the owners seem to have broken him. They're not going to give out the big money, so I'd be okay with maybe overpaying for 2 years and taking a run or something like we'll probably talk about it later in the show, Bellinger's contract, where there's outs after every year, but he's making money. But you can get out of it real quick if you decide, hey, I'm worth more, or I just don't like it here.
No, Snell is honestly irritating me. I just want him to make a decision. 1 second the Yankees are at play, the next second the Dodgers. Now we're hearing that the Angels are probably the front runner and who he wants to play with the most. So hopefully here in the next couple of days we can actually hear some confident news from his sideline, and hopefully he can get on a team and we can see him actually playing preseason or spring training before the games actually count. But before we go off the rails too much, let's go ahead and get the show started. We're going to start over today in the AL Central. We're going to start with who do we got up first? Looks like we're going to start with the Cleveland Guardians today. There. Perfect. All right. So last year, Cleveland Guardians ended the season at 76-86. They had a down year from the previous season. Vegas has the over/under this year at 78.5. So expecting a very similar type season this year, coming from the Cleveland camp. Hack, what do you look at when you look at this roster? What do you think comes to mind? Are you looking at a successful season, or are we looking at another struggle?
I think health is going to play a huge part in that determination. Healthy, I see this team as being good, repeating as the champs or becoming the champs this year. Last year it was Minnesota, but this year becoming the AL Central champs again. I think their offense is one of the better ones in the Central. Maybe not in baseball, but for what they're competing against. It starts with Jose Ramirez at third. That's a central piece to that team. Has been a MVP candidate for years in the AL. I really like Stephen Kwan this year. I think he's about to explode on. I think he's already known, but this year could be a year he pushes for the All-Star game. Pitching is always every team's Achilles, and their top two are real good when they're healthy. Bieber and McKenzie both could be in the Cy Young conversation. But health is Bieber, I already hear they're going to limit his innings, and he'll be lucky to see 125. That's a real low number for your ace. And McKenzie, you're looking at probably 150 to 170 innings. So your top two aren't even getting to 300. That's the recipe for a long season. Even with Big B, and Allen behind them, it's still they need those two stars up top.
No, absolutely. Especially Shane Bieber, coming back, especially this being a contract year for him. There's a lot of conversation about him possibly being a piece of a trade later in the season before the deadline. And for me, I look at this roster, and it's hard for me to say this team is going to be sellers at the deadline when you got stars like Jose Ramirez, Stephen Kwan roaming the outfield. Bo Naylor is Josh Naylor's brother. Bo Naylor's catcher. He's coming up. He had a fantastic season behind the dish last year. Batted .237 and 11 home runs, 32 RBIs in 67 games. Obviously, we expect that the output to increase in it being his second year. He's very patient at the plate. 33 walks last season. Like I said, only 67 games. He likes to see pitches as a catcher. That's really beneficial for the pitching staff to help with batters later as far as passing knowledge down the lineup. But I am really excited for this Cleveland team. I don't see them having another sub 500 season. Tristan McKenzie is someone I'm very excited about. Coming off of the UCL strain after an impressive 2022, obviously coming off of an injury like that, it's going to be kind of shaky at the beginning. I don't think we're going to see any rust from him. I think he's worked off the cobwebs in spring training, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But they have two players on this team that I'm really looking forward to that are really going to be the focal points of this team. And Hack, you did mention them already or during your segment. Is Jose Ramirez and Tristan McKenzie. I mean, Jose Ramirez last season, he had batted 282, 24 home runs, and 80 RBIs, and it was honestly kind of a down year for him. People are thinking that he may be showing his age, and we might be seeing on a downward trajectory for the rest of his career. What do you think, Hack? Do you think he is on his downward trajectory, or do you think last year was just kind of a little bit of an off year for him and the team?
I think last year was a hiccup, and I think even at that, if that's a off year, it's still better at his position than most. There's not many. I can probably count the number of third basemen better than him, maybe on one finger. So I think he still is the engine that makes that team go. And with better offensive player around him, his numbers are going to go back to where they normally sit. This lineup last year let him down a little bit. He didn't have runners in scoring position to get the RBIs.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Stephen Kwan, he's batted 282 over the last two seasons, so he's going to get on base for him. But we got to get the rest of the team kind of behind and on base so we can put up those huge RBI numbers. They're definitely the run output was definitely down from 2022, so we definitely want to see that bounce back on the uptick. Tristan McKenzie obviously coming back from injury. The season before, he had a sub-3 ERA with a 2.96 with 190 strikeouts. So we know what kind of caliber player he is. We know what kind of arm action he brings to the game and to the team. And really, he could be one of the best pitchers in MLB. So I'm excited to see him come back from injury. Hopefully, he can regain where he was beforehand, and we can see him succeed. And hopefully, Cleveland can get back on the winning track. But with Vegas having that over/under, let's go back here and check out what that was one more time. With Vegas at the over/under of 78.5, what do you think the output for this team is going to be this year?
I have them over. I think Bieber and McKenzie will stay healthy this year, and they comfortably go over that number.
I do too, and I think for those people that thinking that the Cleveland Guardians are going to be sellers at the deadline, I think you're totally wrong. If anything, I think they're going to be trying to increase this lineup in certain spots down the line to actually increase and make for that playoff push, because the Central and the AL is definitely anyone's game. So I'm glad that we're on the same page there. Let's go ahead and bounce over to the second team we're going to be covering today, and that is the Detroit Tigers. Finished the 2023 campaign, 78 wins, 84 losses. A lot of teams stuck there close to that 500 range in the AL Central. But, this team has a lot of potential. They're slated for 80.5 wins is where Vegas has had some at this season. What do you think, Hack? How do the Tigers look in your eyes?
This team, I think, is about to make a big jump. I think that they have a chance to compete with the Guardians for the AL Central title. I really like Riley Green. I think he's a really nice young outfielder. He had a good year last year. I think he's going to have a better year this year. I like Spencer Torkelson at first. Nice power bat, young kid. He needs to get a couple more at-bats and make better contact, but he has the base of becoming a really good power hitter for that team. On the pitching side of things, Tariq Skubal, I think, is really expected to have a breakout year here, which is going to be good and bad for him. There's a lot of pressure being the ace for the first time in his career. After him, there's a lot of questions, though. That's Detroit's biggest thing. You have a lot of Jack Flaherty, a lot of injury history. Was an amazing pitcher for the Cardinals when he was healthy. But we're hitting the point of his career where we were talking about the downward end of for Jose Ramirez. I believe Jack Flaherty's in that downward trend of his career. And he's their two pitcher. Kenta Maeda, professional pitcher, but his best days are behind him. He's a great innings eater. I missed the live arm after Skubal. I'm not seeing many live arms. I'm just seeing arms.
I mean,
But
yeah, it's definitely hard to replace Eduardo Rodriguez and Spencer Turnbull. It's kind of hard to replace those two, inning eaters, as you like to put it, for sure. But Kenta Maeda, he's probably should be, I think, their second option. Wouldn't you think? I mean, Jack Flaherty, like you said, he's really showing age. I mean, I think they should probably make a little switch there in the rotation.
Yeah, I think that by the way that injuries happen and everything, he'll end up to be the number 2. If they let Flaherty take the second start of the season, that'll just maybe 3-4 weeks before they see what I think most insiders, because I don't think there's a huge market for Jack Flaherty.
No, anyway, looking at this team, I mean, they're looking to end their 9-year playoff drought. I don't know if this is quite the team to do it. I mean, they're still looking for that, that cornerstone like Miguel Cabrera was, at first base. They're looking for that player to really step up and kind of lead this team. And I know they brought in Javier Baez to kind of fill those shoes and kind of take that role, and he really did not pan out the way that they expected to. And then we look at guys like Gio Urshela, who's on his 3rd team in 3 seasons, but he had a lot of success last year, batting .299 with the Angels and batted .285 with Minnesota. So really, you got someone coming in that's going to put the bat on the ball, get on base for the end of the lineup to roll the lineup over. I mean, there's going to be opportunities for this team to score, and the question is can they put across the runs? Can Javier Baez live up to his contract? And can Tarik Skubal, show that he's not just a flash in the pan? And that's why I have them 2 focused as our main 2 focused players for the Tigers, Javier Baez and Tarik Skubal. I mean, what do you think is going to happen this season, Hack, with when it comes to Javier and Tarik? Do you think this is going to be a continual success for Skubal, and do you think Javier Baez can find success, or do you think we're going to see a lot of the same?
I think for Skubal, this will be a successful year. I think this is a year where he gets talked about as one of an up-and-coming younger pitcher. Baez, on the other hand, since he signed his name to that contract in Detroit, it's been a disappointment. He does not look like he's the same Javier Baez that he was in Chicago, and hasn't looked that way in years. And unfortunately for Detroit, that's the engine, because there's nobody in that locker room to fire him up or make him feel younger. So I think Detroit would be best served trading him to whatever, but the contract they gave him makes it a very hard player to trade. Another player whose contract on that team, I don't know if anybody else in baseball views him as you view him in Detroit. So that might be a tough one to get out from under, but that would be my hope for Detroit. Hand the keys to the younger players there, and if you're going to struggle, at least struggle with purpose.
I mean, here's my thing. If they need these 2 players to step up, I don't think that this is going to be a very great season for Detroit fans. All right, you guys had success with the Lions, but I'm sorry, football season's over. Now you're stuck with the Tigers, and it's not going to be pretty. All right, Javier Baez, terrible contract. Over the last 2 seasons, he's committed 45 errors at the shortstop position. That is a position in baseball that you need your best, most sure-handed fielder, and he has not been that guy over the last 2 seasons. Like I said, 45 errors. He's batted .222, 9 home runs, 59 RBIs last year. Where is the production? He's not even putting balls in play. But this guy, like I said, honestly, it's time to get him out of town, send him down to the minors, do something, find his replacement. They need to get him out of town. And I do have faith in Skubal when it comes to his potential. 7-3 last season is not a number to scoff at, especially with the Detroit Tigers offense at your back. To be able to pull a 7-3 record, hats off to him. Like I can't knock him for that. 2.8 ERA. Here's my condition. Here's my concern though. This is the first time in his career he's had a winning record. And what's concerning about that is that before he has had 0 success. His closest was a 7-8 season in 2022. Can he repeat that 2.8 ERA like last season? His second highest, lowest ERA in his career is like a 3.8. So my concern is that if he regresses at all, and the Tigers cannot put up runs, there's no way he can repeat last season. So when it comes to the over/under Hack, we're looking at, what was that number again? It was I'll bounce back real quick so we can double check. Yeah, I was looking at that too. It was 80.5. Oops, I went back too far. 80.5 wins for the Tigers. I gotta put all my money and the mortgage on the Tigers under this season. I don't know if they might be probably second to third worst team in the league this season. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to see 80 out of this team with that offense, the pitching staff. There's not much. There's not much to look forward to in Detroit. That should be a pretty easy under, and they are probably battling with. They're closer to KC at the bottom than they are to Cleveland and Minnesota at the top.
No argument from me, brother. All right, who we got next? We're going to bounce over to. All right, we're going to Minnesota. Last season, they took the AL Central, 87 wins, 75 losses. Fun statistic. They were the first team to win the AL Central without winning 90 games. I believe it was like in 12 years. So, I mean, that should kind of tell you what the Central was like last season. Not a lot of success. How do the Twins sit on your spectrum here? I mean, are they looking like they're going to repeat the success from last season, or are we looking for another stumble?
I think the Twins are the most complete team in the AL Central. They have Carlos Correa. He's a bona fide, when healthy, he's a bona fide star. Byron Buxton, and I've loved this guy. This is one of them players that gets me. I've loved this guy for about 4 years, and he's been hurt continuously for about 4 years. So they've been talking about this in Minnesota since he's been up. If he ever can put a whole season healthy together, he's going to put up crazy numbers, but they can't get that whole season out of him. Royce Lewis, you saw in the playoffs, this kid is exciting. He's exciting. He hits the ball hard, and he's out there having a good time. And I love to see young players like that. You have to have – I mean, baseball is fun. I grew up playing it. You're supposed to have fun playing this game, and Royce Lewis has fun. Their pitching staff, I think that might be the separation for them. We were talking, we'll see if Lopez and Ryan can do it again. But last year, they were one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball, not just in the AL, but in baseball. Both of them were power pitching, lots of strikeouts. Joe Ryan had some regression after the All-Star break, but in the offseason, the reports in Minnesota say he was mad about the regression. He was not happy and didn't sit there on his laurels. He went out and improve his out pitches and keep his Ks. This year, he's looking to get 200 Ks. So I think, and 3 through 5, they have real pitchers. They're all special, but they're pitchers. They're major league pitchers. They're going to get you the 5-6 innings to get to your bullpen. And if Lopez and Ryan do what they want in the beginning of the week, your bullpen should be ready and rested for 3 through 5.
I like what you said, though, about Royce Lewis. Like we said, we did see him last year in the playoffs. He only played 58 games last year, and he led the team in average on-base percentage and slugging percentage. So, like I said, in 58 games, for him to have that kind of impact on a playoff caliber team, that's huge. So I'm right with you. I'm expecting big things from Royce this season. I'm excited to see what he can do. When it comes to Carlos Correa, the only thing he's improved on since leaving Houston is his fielding percentage. That's the only thing he can do from Minnesota right now is flash out leather, because offensively he's been absolutely garbage. 230 splits last season, 18 home runs, only 65 RBIs. The production's just not there from Houston. Luckily, he is flashing the leather, like I said, and he is obviously going to be a Gold Glove candidate as always. So we'll see if he can improve on the offensive side this season. When we talk about Pablo Lopez, I mean, he was one of my favorite guys from Miami. Came over to Minnesota. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about the move. Especially going to Minnesota of all teams. Wasn't really high. They weren't really high on my list, but finished with 11-8 record. A 3.66 ERA, a little up from his from his Miami days, but 234 strikeouts, right where he needs to be. He went 2-0 in the playoffs. Mr. Clutch for this team. If they're going to get back to the playoffs, Pablo Lopez is going to be the reason why, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I did kind of mark him down as one of my staples for this team. Him and Carlos Correa are going to be, going to decide whether this team stays or goes. Carlos Correa needs to turn it up on the offensive side, and Pablo Lopez needs to continue to be that workhorse and inning eater in the bullpen or in the coming out of the rotation. Hack, how do you see these two guys coming off this season? Do you think Pablo is going to continue that success?
I think both of them will continue to be what they have been. Pablo is going to be successful, and Correa will play defense and frustrate Minnesota fans at the plate. But what they have around him is enough that I think Minnesota will. They're going to be a really good team this year, and they should win the Central with more than 90 wins. Hopefully, in theory.
Okay, so your early pick right now is that the Twins are your favorite going into the season to win the AL Central for the second time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I'm going to mark that down. I'm keeping receipts, as Dion says. We're keeping those receipts. But we are going to continue to move on. This time, we're going to go down to Kansas City, win all the Super Bowls they want. I don't know if that's going to be in the cards for the MLB team here with the Royals. Last season, finishing at a dismal 56 wins, 106 losses. Maybe Travis Kelce can come try out and at least fill the stands for him. Who knows? Maybe bring some Taylor Swift action. I don't know. But they finished fourth. They have finished fourth or last in the Central Division since 2018. That is not where you want to be, especially after successful playoff runs in the not too distant past. What do you think the Royals are looking like this season, Hack?
The Royals aren't going to win much, but they have one of the best young players in the game. They don't need Travis Kelce or Taylor Swift to fill their ballpark because they have Bobby Witt Jr. And that kid's a stud. He's, in my opinion, one of the top 5 young players playing right now. Unfortunately for the Royals, that's been the best player they've had in their farm system in a while, and they are around him a little deficient. Vinny Pasquantino is a young slugger that last year was hurt. This year he's looking to put together a full healthy season. I think he's going to help. Salvador Perez is getting older. We were talking about how long it's been since he's won the World Series MVP. It seems like I tend to forget they even won the World Series. It's been that long ago. And he's still there. When healthy, can hit home runs. But after a 4-hole, you got Hunter Renfroe. To me, he's like the inning eater equivalent of a lineup guy. You're a major league hitter. You're good for 200 at bats, but nobody's excited that Hunter Renfroe is batting 5th for their team. That's the shame. Pitching, Cole Reagans, there's some buzz around him. We'll see how he does. The rest of their guys, a bunch of guys that pretty much didn't make it as 3rd or 4th starters on better teams, but they'll have a chance in Kansas City to resurrect their career. It stinks for Kansas City's fans, but for the team-wise, you might get some good production out of some of these guys just on the Aroldis Chapman plan. I came here, I signed, and I still am good. And then the Rangers came, picked him up, and now he's a World Series winner. So I think Kansas City will be a major league team. They'll be watchable. They won't just roll over and give teams easy wins, but 1 through 9, definitely not the most talented team in the AL.
I heard that. And you mentioned 2 names there that I really want to focus on, and that's Bobby Witt Jr. and Cole Reagans. Bobby Witt Jr. just signed that 11-year, $288.8 million deal, coming off a 276 batting average, 30 home runs, 96 RBIs. If you can't remember this, 49 stolen bases. This man can run the bases. He knows he gets great jumps. He's got very fast. I'm excited to see what he can do on the base pass this year. I'm expecting another 30 home run season from him. And just like you said, I expect him to be the reasons why fans are coming to watch this team, because it's definitely not going to be for wins. And Cole Reagans, I do believe that this is the right spot for him. I really do. When he came over from Texas, he put up a 2.64 ERA. With over 70 innings pitched. When he would play with Texas, he finished with a 2-3 win-loss record and a 5.42 ERA. Sorry, 5.92 ERA. Those numbers are not somebody you want starting in your top 5. But when he went to KC, something changed. I think the pressure kind of came off of him. They weren't winning a lot of games. He could really just kind of focus on his pitching, and he ended up putting up a 5-2 record with a 2.64 ERA. If he can continue that. And continue that relaxed, no pressure attitude, I think he can carry that into the season because they really need it. Kansas City finished third worst in the league last year with a 5.17 ERA as a team. They definitely need to turn that around. And I think Cole Reagans could be the start of that. But we will see what happens. Now, Vegas, of course, they think that this team is better than last year, and they have them with a 73.5 win-loss total. What are we thinking for the over-under on this season, Hack?
Although I think Kansas City's going to be better, that's an almost 20-game improvement. So I'm going to have to go with under. But I'm not saying under due to the team. I'm saying under because I think Vegas set that number at way too high for this roster. But I do think they're going to be an improved team.
I actually agree with you on this one. I do think they are going to be improved. I still think they're going to be probably bottom 5 teams in the MLB when it's all said and done. But like you said, they have a lot of young talent. The future looks bright for Kansas City. So if you're a Royals fan, get through these tough times because I promise you, sun will be shining on the other side, hopefully within the next, decade.
Let me just say one thing about that. Bobby Witt signing that contract. I love when these young players do this. Like Acuna did it and it worked out. The Phillies tried to do it. My team with Scott Kingery. It didn't work out with that player. But when you see a player and you think this guy can be in my franchise and a cornerstone, and they're willing to sign a long-term deal and less money, it just allows Kansas City to have a cornerstone. Like, to me, he's going to be a top 10 player. He's that special in this game. And he's going to be paid like a top 25 player. It just lets you build. And it just shows a culture in that day. It might not be this year, but Kansas City's one of those teams, and he's a player. He's going to change the culture out there. And 5 years from now, it'll be better. Much better.
Hey, I'm just going to say this. They're not that far removed from World Series success. Okay, so we know they can do it. We know that the market's not the reason why. It's not because no one wants to live in Kansas City. I mean, they can do it. They've shown that. So let's see if this is, they can start building at least towards the future in the right direction. But I'm done talking about the Royals. We're going to move on, and I think the last team in the AL Central is the Chicago White Sox. This is a team that I am actually pretty excited for. Last season, they finished at 61 wins, 101 losses. That doesn't sound like a team you should be excited for, but they have a lot of interesting names on this list that really grabbed my attention. But Hack, how are the White Sox looking to you?
So I love so many of these players. I play fantasy baseball, and I love so many of these guys. But it is the definition of insanity that every year I expect the White Sox to easily win the division. Because when I put their names on paper, as opposed to the other teams, you got Benintendi, Robert, Maconda, Jimenez, like DeJong now, Nicky Lopez. They have major league players that can put up numbers. They can't stay healthy. I don't know what it is on they're the South Side. Yeah, the South Side. What it is on the South Side of Chicago, but they can't. It's just not. They're snake bitten. And I love their player. Like this year, Jimenez is going to try to just DH to keep him healthy. He's in that Byron Buxton class. Man, if you can just stay healthy, you're such a good player when you're on the field, but you have to be on the field. Robert stayed healthy last year, and he showed what he can do when healthy. But again, that's a huge when healthy. Maconda had that breakout season, I want to say 2 years ago, and I think all he's done since then is regressed offensively. He's the definition of the launch angle type of player, and his swing and miss rate is just, it's bananas how bad it's been, and he still starts because he is a young, talented player, but they're just a frustrating team. And then we go to their pitching staff, and Cease, hopefully, this year. But I've been looking in the comments, and I can see, he's one of their players. I don't know if he's going to end up traded at the trade deadline with this team. It's probably more likely than not he's traded at the trade deadline. The rest of their pitchers, nothing special. They've been playing with Kopech. Is he a reliever? Is he a starter for 2-3 years now? this year he's going to fully start. We'll see how that goes, but it's very disappointing. So much talent, and they can't get out of their way.
No, I mean, with like for me, like the focus for me that I'm going to look at, when I'm looking at this roster and where the offense starts and finishes for me is it's going to be Luis Robert Jr. He his batting average dropped more than 20 points from 22 to 23. His home runs did increase, but it looks like he's just more focused on hitting home runs than he is for making solid contact, which is the reason why his strikeouts has absolutely doubled from 22 to 23. I think that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it sure feels like he's doubled his strikeout rate from 22 to 23 due to the fact that he is working on hitting more for power. But honestly, I think he just needs to hit more for average. Going back to his 22 season, the White Sox were a lot more successful with him putting the ball into play, driving in more runs, moving batters along. Luis Robert Jr. is someone that I think could really be an MVP candidate in this league, but I'm not quite sold if he's going to be able to maintain the success from last season. And when it comes to Dylan Cease, I don't think he's going to be on this team when it does come down to the trade deadline. This team is finished 29th in runs scored last season, and they also gave up the 5th most runs. Something has got to improve this season, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep him around in order to improve the offense, which is probably going to be one of the worst in the majors. What do you think, Hack? Do you think I'm on the right path when it comes to probably this being one of the worst teams that we're looking at, or do you think you have kind of some brighter sights for them?
Unfortunately, I don't have brighter days for them. I think they're going to end up sellers, and they're going to blow. They're going to sell a lot. There's going to be a big wholesale at the trade deadline with this team. Unfortunately, because like I said, I do like a lot of their pieces. It's just when you put their pieces together, it doesn't add up. Unfortunately. But great pieces. They're great people. I don't know, great might be an
but they're great. But they're great.
They're good pieces, but maybe it's the manager. You never know why. It's just together as a collective, these guys aren't winning. So it might be time to move on and get some different guys in there.
Okay. Now, I respect that opinion. But here, when it comes down to the brass tacks of things, I think earlier you kind of made your pick, but I'm going to ask you officially, who is your pick to win the AL Central this season? I believe you said it was the Twins. Are you sticking with that after covering all 5 teams?
I was thinking it was going to be the Guardians, but after just doing all the breakdowns and looking at the Twins have less question marks. So the Twins because of their pitching.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I'm going to divert from where you're looking at. For me, I'm definitely going to pick the Cleveland Guardians to kind of regain control of the Central. They've won the divisional championship 4 of the last 8 seasons, so I expect them to make that 5 of 9 going into this year. So I think Tristan McKenzie, Shane Bieber, and Tanner Bybee can definitely pull a season together, and I think the offense will click. But wait, only time will tell. But next up, guys, we have a new segment that we just started this week. We're trying it out. Hopefully you'll like it. It's called 7th Inning Stretch. This is a section that we're going to be covering all the latest news, information regarding MLB and anything that might be coming out. We only got a couple pieces of information today, nothing crazy. But here we go, 7th Inning Stretch. Hack, the Oakland Athletics, soon to be the Las Vegas Athletics, just released pictures of what their stadium may or may not look like. And it has some people kind of freaking out and excited. What are your opinions of the Athletics' possible new stadium?
It's definitely unique. It's not. Listen, I'm a Phillies fan. That type of stadium where I'm from, it would not be my cup of tea. But it's amazing. I mean, it looks what they say, like the Philharmonic. I think they modeled it after. It's got all those
something like that.
They say it glows. I haven't seen it light up at night, but like if it's the Vegas, what else would you expect from Vegas? I don't ever picture this being the new norm for Chicago or St. Louis, but we have Vegas making a stadium. What else?
Could you imagine though, like paying for a ticket and like zip lining through the outfield, like while they're playing, like a ball gets hit, like try to catch it. If you catch it, like you get to keep the ball and it's an out for the home team, or like that would be totally Vegas. I bet they're going to have probably like blackjack tables, slot machines, all that stuff, of course. But I think they should add a zip line. For me, that's what I'm thinking. Put a zip line through there. I'm happy as pie, dude. Um, and then the next kind of piece of news that we have, it's not like later breaking. It's a few days old now, and I'm sure you've all seen it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And that is the Los Angeles Dodgers moving Mookie Betts to shortstop. If you like my little play on words there, Robert's Betts on Mookie, I'm gonna give myself a little pat on the back there. Thank you, Hack. Appreciate your laughing. Hopefully, people at home are laughing too at me. At least. But, Lux has struggled this spring training. They moved him over to second base. He's had a lot of issues fielding the ball this season. And it's kind of funny that, what was it, last week, you were just saying how when I asked you about Mookie's move to second base, you were saying put him at shortstop. He can play anywhere he wants. Third base, put him at pitcher, put him at catcher. He can play there. Now that move is official and he is going to be playing at shortstop, do you still have that same confidence, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I wish Phillies have great leaders. Like they have some great leaders, but I only wish we had a leader like this. This is someone that you went from the outfield to second. Now he's moving to short, and look, without even seeing him play a game, this man's going to be the starting shortstop in the All-Star game.
Dude, they already got shortstops already freaking out about it. Do you see that tweet today or whatever?
Dansby Swanson is mad because you just lost incentive in your contract. He is. I wish I could just know what it was like to say I'm going to be great at this and then go be great at that.
Right? That'd be so amazing.
His bowling average is like 280. There's not like literally whatever this man decides he's going to do, he's good at it. So yeah, at this point, short of him being like, oh, we're tiny pitches, I think I can pull that off too. That's the only thing he has left for me to be like, this guy can't do it. It's got to just irritate Boston fans to have to look at this because it's got to.
Dude, nailed it. Well, here's the honest question though. Like, how do the Dodgers spend over $1 billion in free agency and not address a position as important as shortstop in free agency, or make sure that's handled after you sign Ohtani? I feel like your next thing should be, okay, cool. You got Freddie Freeman at first. Who's at short? Like, if you weren't positive on Lux going into the season, I don't know how you don't fix that issue now.
Because if I'm the coach and I know I have Mookie Betts, like I can find a second baseman. I find that they've been happy with Muncy playing where, switching around at third. They brought back the Enrique Hernandez, and these are guys that I don't particularly think are great players, the Chris Taylors, but they work for the Dodgers because the top heavy is so good and perform at historical rates that it's going to work. I do understand, like, get a shortstop, but their farm system, they have 4 shortstops that none of us even know about, and it's amazing what the Dodgers can do every year. Because I feel like every year we say this, like, Gavin Lux isn't got hurt or he's underperforming. Max Muncy, defensive liability, it's not working out. We kept Chris Taylor instead of Corey Seager. This is the wrong move, but they have Mookie Betts, they have Freddie Freeman, and it'll all work out around it.
Yeah, they just released the top 10 farm systems in the Major League Baseball, and the Dodgers I was like looking on the list, like, okay, where are the Giants? Where are the Giants? Of course, not in the top 10, but guess who was? The Dodgers, number 7 in for their farm system, number 7 ranks in the whole Major League Baseball. So they definitely have something in the farm system. They definitely, bring up their players well. And as much as I hate the Dodgers, you got to kind of tip your hat to them when you can. But that, folks, is 7th inning stretch. Hopefully that was a segment that you guys will like going forward. Every week it'll be something different with new news, things like that. But like I said, don't want to keep you guys too long tonight, so we are going to go ahead and keep it moving. We are going to go on to the NL Central. here. Let me get that guy going for us. And we're going to start over in good old Cincinnati. Last season, they finished at 82 wins, 80 losses. Honestly, they were one of the more exciting teams to watch, if you ask me. And I just as a baseball fan, if the Reds were on, I was looking for them when they were going to be on TV so I could watch, especially with stars like Elly De La Cruz, Jonathan India, players like that are exciting to watch. They got a great young pitching staff. What do you think, Hack, is the ceiling for this Cincinnati Reds team?
I think this is a team that's going to win a lot of games this year. They're going to be fun to watch. I think they're going to make the postseason this year somehow, some way.
Okay.
Young team, very young, exciting, like you said. I think 1 through 9, they're not the Astros that we did last week, where it's all stars all throughout, or the Rangers. But this lineup has the chance to be very, very, very good 1 through 7, with 8 and 9 being nice 8 and 9 hole hitters on most major league teams. You said De La Cruz is exciting. I mean, to watch that kid run, it's like watching a young May. It's amazing.
Run like a gazelle. All right. All right.
TJ Friedel at leadoff. I think this year he's going to open up a lot of eyes. He's a kid that they have so much young talent. Sometimes he doesn't get talked about as much. And I mean, him batting leadoff tells you what the coaches think about his ability. Spencer Steer and Matt McLean, I think last year they announced that they were here, and this year's a very, very important year, because year 2 for a lot of young players, you find out, can they hit a curveball? Can they adjust? Because now there's tape, and pitchers know what you're not comfortable with anymore. The Reds have a lot of year 2 players, year 3 players, so I'm betting on them shining together, but they could struggle, and that ballpark could get empty, you know? The pitching staff is what I think they have a great young pitching staff, and I'll let you talk about a lot of their pitchers, but I'll take the number 5, Nick Lodolo. Last year, I loved this guy. The injury hurt, but I think if he comes back healthy, he has Cy Young quality stuff. It's just a matter of putting it together. And the injury is another check against him, but man, this kid's like, he could be a golden ticket for Cincinnati if he comes back healthy, head on straight, and everything breaks right.
Yeah, it's really funny that you mentioned Nick Lodolo, because that is exactly who I was focusing on in this Cincinnati Reds rotation. Is, the fact that he's the 5 starter is crazy to me, because this dude can really, honestly, this dude can pitch. We saw a batting average drop of over 100 points from 21 to 22, and coming back from injury, I expect him to be able to kind of pick up where he left off. He's a young arm. He's not, in the twilight years of his career, he should be able to bounce back nicely. But that's exactly what I'm most excited to watch too, and that's Nick Lodolo. Let me jump over here. Let me say Hunter Green. That's another exciting name. I do feel like Nick Lodolo is more potentially going to be their ace by the time the season is all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised if they're putting Nick up against the other team's aces and having Hunter kind of start, game 2, game 3 of a series. He's 6'5", 242. The dude can throw a fastball. He finished in 4-7 last year. With a 4.82 ERA, Hunter Green did. And that's what kind of worries me, is he's a big, powerful strikeout guy. 112 innings pitched last season and 152 strikeouts. That says everything you kind of need to know about what kind of pitcher he is he's very dominant. The problem is that he gave up a lot of hits last year. He gave up a lot of runs. And if he needs to kind of keep his pitches low in the zone this season to prevent the long ball, and I think he can be successful. But honestly, you mentioned kind of the 2 names that really stand out for me with this team, and that is Nick Lodolo and Elly De La Cruz. Here's the thing about Elly De La Cruz for me, is he is a superstar. All right, we've all seen the highlights of him stealing second, third, and home doing 1 plate appearance for the guy after him. So we know he's a superstar. We know he's a difference maker. We know he can make things happen. The problem with him is that, and it's not even that big of a problem, I think he can fix it with some great coaching, is that he strikes out 33% of the time. That's a problem. he had games last season. Where is it? He had 7 games in September when the Reds still had a playoff chance. He had 7 games where he had multiple strikeouts and 5 games with 3+ strikeouts. You can't be having that kind of you cannot be having those kind of at bats when games are on the line, playoffs are on the line, and the season's on the line. And when it came down to it, he was either tired from the season, or he was just kind of doing his own thing and not listening to coaching, or he was just having, he was in a slump. Either way, he didn't produce. So we really need him to start producing from day 1 to day 365 this year. How do you feel about Elly De La Cruz, Hack? When you kind of see what I'm seeing, or do you think that that's something that can be fixed?
I see what you say, and I think that's why he's bats so low in the lineup right now. And I appreciate that with the Reds, is that his talent, he should be their leadoff hitter. But you can't bat leadoff and have the stats that you just brought up. You can't strike out and be the team's leadoff hitter. That only works for a Schwarber.
And let's do the Phillies, then it works.
Other than that, you need to develop the plate discipline. So I think he's in the right spot, and he's going to get plenty at bats to do it. This year will be a big year to see how the coaches coach him, because he ran through. I'm not being critical, but he ran through some stop signs last year. He let his excitement maybe take over on the field too much. So, are you coachable? Are you able to take what they're telling you and take that ball of energy and find a way to constrain it in the parameters of helping your team? And I think, yes, I think we've talked. I think Cincinnati's going to have a good year, and he's going to be one of the key pieces to it. I'd love to say you're going to be in the All-Star game, things like that for him, but there's a lot of good shortstops in the NL, but he's an up-and-coming one.
No, absolutely. And so Vegas has, as far as it goes with the win total, they have them having what is that? Too much stuff in the way. Hide. All right, 81.5 over under. So they basically have them kind of on the same exact season they had last season. From the way you're making it sounds like you think we're going to be seeing an increase in wins this season. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. I have them over. I think they're comfortably over this. The young kid, and I think the young kids are going to mature together, and I think their pitching staff. I think I agree with you. I think Lodolo ends up closer to 1, and if you take that pitching staff as it sits now and just move him to the top, that's a really good pitching staff with Andrew Abbott as your 5 and Frankie Montas of 4. So I think they're comfortably over.
But here's the beautiful thing is that if this team is as successful as we think they're going to be this season, because I have them with the over as well, as it gets closer to that trade deadline, if teams like the White Sox or teams like the Guardians are not in the playoff hunt and they want to rebuild and get some pieces, Dylan Cease or Shane Bieber would be a nice piece to this lineup in the back end to kind of fill out that rotation. And that's a lot of experience. That's a lot of innings. It's a lot of mentoring that would be very valuable to this Reds team and possibly for that playoff push. So let's keep an eye on that. Like I said, I just want to throw that out there now that I see that happening. My crystal ball has spoken, and one of those guys is going to end up in a red uniform in Cincinnati by the end of the season. So write that down. All right, who we got next here? All right, so that's the Reds. In case you just missed it, we both have them going over 81.5 wins this season. We think they're going to be very successful. I think the Cincinnati Reds are going to continue to be very exciting to watch. But we're going to go over to another team in Chicago. This time the Chicago Cubs. Another one of teams that America really loves to get behind, especially early in the season and around the playoff time. Finished at 83 wins, 79 losses last season. And that's the Chicago Cubs playing at Wrigley Field, obviously one of the most iconic ballparks that has ever been built. I would love to go there. It's on my bucket list. And last season they missed the playoffs by one single game. Hack, what do you see the Cubs doing this season?
I see a lot of the same at last year. Only this year they're going to make the move at the trade deadline to help them get into the playoffs for their fans. Hopefully, I don't know if it'll work out, but I think bringing back Bellinger, great move for them, because without him, their futures weren't as bright. I like Suzuki. I think he's one of the up and coming players. I loved him 2 years ago, and I like him on this team this year. He's batting in the 3-hole this year. I think that's a good spot, protected by Bellinger. I think he's going to have a breakout offensive season. I really love their leadoff hitter, Nico Horner. His versatility, short second base. He's a middle infielder. Really good. Last year, he had a real good year. I think he had an all-star caliber year. But baseball gets funny with the one per team. Sometimes people get left out. The pitching staff for the Cubs, they get Justin Steele. This year, going to have to earn that money. And we're going to see it. I think the rest of their pitchers are what they are. We know what we're getting year in, year out from Talion and Hendricks. But Steele, they're expecting big things out of him in Chicago this year. I don't know if I see it. I'm intrigued by that, to see his growth.
Yeah, one person I'm excited to see, obviously they lost Marcus Stroman to the Yankees. That was a huge loss out of the rotation. But they then replaced him with Shota Imanaga. I probably butchered that. I apologize if I did. But he had a 3.18 ERA in the Japanese league that he played in. He came over, joined the Cubs this season. He's someone that I'm excited to see. He doesn't have as much hype as a certain Japanese pitcher over in LA, but I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. I think he's going to be a good number 3. And Kyle Hendricks is another, the 4th starter that I'm excited to kind of see if he can progress this season. He was kind of wishy-washy last year. I want to see his fastball pick up the velocity again. But Cody Bellinger, I'm really glad that he's back with the Cubs this season. I feel like he is happy there, and when Cody Bellinger is happy, I feel like he actually produces. He won a Silver Slugger Award and finished 10th in MVP voting last year, and the fact that he's back, Chicago Cubs fans are very excited. He batted 307 last year, 26 home runs, 96 RBIs. His strikeouts are way down from 150 down to 87. He nearly cut his strikeouts in half in Chicago last season. This is somebody that I'm going to be kind of eyeing for possible MVP. Like I say, he finished 10th last season. He's somebody that I'm looking for to kind of make a big splash impact in Chicago this year. But this is what I'm seeing right here is, the 2 guys I want to focus on, Justin Steele, Cody Bellinger. Justin Steele last year, 16-5, 16 wins, 5 losses. Came out with a 3.06 ERA, just over 3, and averaged 9.1 strikeouts per 9. This dude can bring it. He really wants to earn that paycheck. I think, honestly, he's the future that the Cubs need. They need to sign him long-term. Cody Bellinger, like I said, he's back. Cubs fans are happy. Hack, what do you see the season for these 2?
I think it's going to be a good year for both. I do think Justin Steele is going to have a good year. I don't know if their pitching staff is going to increase as a whole from last year. And I think Bellinger will do better. He might offensively, the Cubs might carry their team with offense this year. Whereas last year, I thought the pitching staff had helped them a lot more. This year's going to be about the offense. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out in Chicago.
Well, here's one thing for me when it comes to Chicago is, they missed the playoffs by 1 game, right? But hear this crazy stat. They had 57 save opportunities last year. 57. Just take a wild guess. How many blown saves do you think they had last season?
45.
That's crazy. But 22. They're not quite as crazy as your number, but 22. That's still a crap load. All right. Dang, Hack. You really went there. 22 blown saves last year and 57 chances. All right. They did bring in Hector Neris in the bullpen to kind of shore things up on the back end. But this team needs to find someone that can close. Plain and simple, they need to be able to close out games because 22 wins, if they win half of those, if they win 5 of those, they're in the playoffs. So they got to figure out something, and I do think, like I said, the Cubs are going to have an up year. You got 83.5 as over-under. I think Justin Steele brings it just like last season. I think he has his season possibly even better than last season. But Hack, what do you think? The 83.5. What are you thinking? Over under?
I think this might be one of our first disagreements. I have them under.
Really? Okay.
I
What?
don't.
How under? How under are
I
we
have
talking?
other teams rising in this division, and for teams to rise, teams have to fall. And you can be a good team and still. Last year they were a good team. They were 2 games above 500. So I have them under this year.
You know, you think that we were going to disagree, but funny fact is I think Justin Steele will have a fantastic season. I think he will be the one bright spot in the season for the Cubs. And really it's because of the new manager. Like I said, they got Craig Counsell over from Milwaukee. And I think the betrayal of Counsell leaving Milwaukee, his team that he played for, to leave them for the Cubs, I think that a curse is going to spring upon the Cubs, and it's going to be darkness for the next 47 years. And I think that's going to be why the Cubs don't have success. But Cody Bellinger, I think he's going to rock out all season. I think he's going to have MVP caliber numbers. Justin Steele is going to be in the conversation for Cy Young. And this team does have a lot of potential. However, I do believe that the under is what's going to happen here. I can't stand betrayal. Betrayal. Control said it perfect right here. I cannot stand betrayal, and for me, that's the biggest one. Like, people dream to coach the teams that they played for. Like, I mean, that's like a dream. Like, oh, I went to the University of Oregon. I want to coach at the University of Oregon. Like, that's a dream, and he gave that up. He had that for 9 years and gave it up. I don't know. But I do have the under as well, Hack. I do think this is a regression year. I do think there's going to be some growing pains, and the roster is just kind of getting old. And we just need to bring up some guys from the minors and see what we can do with it. But we're gonna move on. All right, let me see here. We got the Cubs right now. Next up, we are going over to drum roll, Pittsburgh. This is a team I'm really excited for. The Pittsburgh Pirates finished last season 76 wins, 86 losses. And in case y'all missed it, yes, I did say Pittsburgh Pirates and excited in the same sentence. And it's true. I really am. And there's two reasons today why is O'Neal Cruz hit 2 more home runs in spring training. Took him absolutely yabo. I was so happy to see that. But Hack, what are you thinking for the Pirates? They have only made the playoffs 17 times since their team's inception in 1882, which is a whole of a long time ago, in case you were curious. Okay, that's a long-ass time ago. Only 17 playoff appearances. Hack, what do you think for the Pirates this season? Are you excited? Are you not excited? Tell me.
I'm trying. I kind of want you to go first so I can get this. I feel like if you I want to be in the locker room taking a knee so you can be like, yeah, we're going out there and we're winning for the dip. We're winning. Like,
get them in, get them inside, get them outside.
All the normal ones, but
no, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay. All right, I'll go first. Look, the Pirates obviously finished 76 and 86 last year, close to 500, and the Pittsburgh fans were honestly really excited. Start of April, they finished the first month of the season 20 wins, 9 losses, actually leading the NL Central. And the fans were buzzing. Team news was buzzing. Everyone was excited. Then O'Neal Cruz, he's coming off a broken ankle. That really kind of put a divvy in the road last season. Losing him, they're excited to have him back. Only played in 9 games last season, had 8 hits, batted .250, but the dude is 6'7", 215, and he runs like a 4.6 40. Like, this dude is impressive. I can't wait to see him put a full season in. I'm looking for a 30-30 season from him, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. I think really the sky is the limit for this guy, and I know Pittsburgh Pirates fans are excited to have him. Rowdy Tellez, He was had off year last year. He was constantly on and off the DL, and he never really quite got his momentum going. And we hope to get him back to his 35 home run season of 2022. But really, what you have him over there is first base. He's an underrated fielder. He's got a .996 fielding percentage, which puts him in the top tier of first baseman as far as fielding percentage goes. So he's really underrated as far as defense goes. And when he's hitting, people aren't complaining about him. So I'm just excited to see him kind of come back to 2022, put up some big power numbers and get this team going. And then you got guys like Mitch Keller, coming in the rotation. Just signed a 5-year, $77 million deal which is absolutely crazy. The dude definitely deserves it. He went from 5-12 to 13-9. But the problem is this: is I don't quite buy it. Like I said, he went 13-9 last season, but the year before was 5-12. And his wins might have been up, but guess what else was up? His ERA. His ERA, even though he finished at 5 wins the previous season with 12 losses, his ERA was actually 3.3 points lower than this last season that earned him the $77 million. So I'm not quite sure I buy it, but I am excited to see the potential because, like I said, this Pirates team I'm very high on. And I love Andrew McCutchen. I'm a Giants fan. The couple years he spent in San Francisco, absolutely love that man. He's great for the fans. Pittsburgh, you guys are lucky to have him as a player. They signed guys like Aroldis Chapman. Yasami Grandal. Andrew McCutchen is back. All to 1-year deals. They spent $30 million in free agency this year compared to last year. Their payroll was like $54 million for the whole team. So the fact that they're actually spending, Pittsburgh fans should be excited. And then you can't forget, I'm almost done. I know I'm going crazy. I'm almost done. You got Paul Skeens. You got Paul Skeens sitting in the minors. He's sitting there. They did tell him he's not going to make the opening day roster, which is fine. Because guess what? By the All-Star break, he would have started. Because guess what? The Pittsburgh Pirates last season went through 10 different starters, which means that guys are not staying healthy and or they're just not producing. And they're quick to pull the plug on their starters to get new guys reps and get them going. So look for Paul Skeens to be up and with the big team, probably by the All-Star break, if not shortly after. I'm done. I need to drink some water. I'm dehydrated. You take it.
You got me fired up. I'm a believer. No,
Go Pirates.
You did all that, and you didn't even talk about Brian Reynolds.
I was to leave it for you. Yeah, I had to leave you something.
The Yankees came calling last year. That was probably the first sign the Pirates thought they had something brewing, because normally a team like the Pirates don't say no, and instead they doubled up. They doubled down and signed him long term. I like that Jack Suwinski. That's a good player. I watched him play a couple times. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Pittsburgh's not on my rotation of teams I'm generally checking out, but good.
They will be this season. They will be this season.
They will be. Solid bat. Grandal is a power hitter. His batting average is atrocious as a catcher, but he hits home runs. So he's going to add. Their pitching staff is – I didn't realize all these guys were on the pitching staff was set up the way it is. I'm not a fan of Bailey Falter. As a Phillies fan, I had to watch him go like 0-7, 0-8 last year. So it's not somebody that I can call a major league pitcher. But you put Paul Skeens in that spot, and all of a sudden, Perez Gonzalez behind Keller, it's a good staff. It should be. I'll give you this. This is the most optimistic a Pittsburgh team should be in a long time, in a very long time.
Did you hear what the Pirates owner said? He said, because of the new playoff format, we should have a chance to sniff the playoffs. That's what he said. Do you not see your roster? How young, how youthful this roster is, how talented this roster is, the potential of this roster. Like, this is my dark horse to win the NL Central. I'm just going to say it now because we're on them. Like, hands down, if they can start this season off with that 29 pace that they started with last year, maybe even a couple games off. I'm not going to be picky, but they can start off hot like they did last season, but this time continue it. We don't see the injuries to O'Neal Cruz. He stays in the lineup. They don't have a constant rotation at short. They have a power bat with speed up at the top with O'Neal, staying healthy through the entire season. Mitch Keller actually produces a season that he's capable of, that he's shown us he can do. I mean, Marco Gonzalez, like I said, he's had some iffy years in Seattle and with a little bit of a high ERA, but there's no reason to say that this offense, especially if Tellez can kind of get back to his 2022 self, there's no reason this offense can't, average 4.5 runs a game. There's no reason that this team can't be in the top 10 in offense. I mean, like I said, this is one of the most underrated lineups, in my opinion, that we've covered so far. Obviously, we have the East next week. Make sure you guys tune in for that, previewing the AL and NL East teams. But as far as the Central and the West, this is a team that's I think is going to be sneaky good. And when it comes to the over/under hack, you're 74.5. What are you thinking?
I have them over this year. Not crazy over, but I have them as over, I think. You talked me into it. I'm actually gonna adjust some of my other teams, and you got me believing. I'm gonna go over.
I'm pretty sure that the Pirates don't even believe in themselves as much as I believe in them. I'm going to send them this freaking tape, and they're going to make them watch it before the first game, and they're going to, all right, they're going to come out swinging. But no, I absolutely agree. I think over is definitely the play here, and I think are they going to win the Central? Like I said, they're my dark horse team. Realistically, there may be a couple teams on here that might be a little bit more talented, but that's the best part about these Central divisions is people think that there's weak teams with great athletes. And the best part about these teams being so even is that like any of these teams can win this division, and that's what's going to make these two Centrals the two most exciting divisions to watch this season. I think, as far as a playoff race goes. That's enough about the Pirates. I've worn myself out. I need a breather. We talked about Mitch Keller and O'Neill Cruz already, so we're going to keep that moving. Only two more teams left, y'all. Almost done. I appreciate y'all sticking with us. But next up, we're going to the St. Louis Cardinals. Had a bit of a down year last year, something that St. Louis fans are not used to seeing with a very consistent Cardinals team. Finished 71 wins, 91 losses, avoided the triple loss mark, so that's great. But this team's got a lot of stars, man. This is the most losses they've had in a season since 1990, which is before I was born. Okay, so that's pretty crazy. That's how consistent this team has been. But heck, what do you think about St. Louis this season? Are they going to repeat success from a couple of years ago that they've been having, or is what last year going to be the new norm?
This is one you're doing receipts. You can write a receipt for this one. They're gonna be the 91 loss team again. You say stars. I see an aging out, two aging superstars that you didn't trade last year when you probably should have traded them. So you're only gonna get less this year. And then I see a bunch of young guys that St. Louis has told me is stars. And national media has told me these guys are stars. But when I watch the Cardinals games, I don't see it. The best I've seen Lars Nootbaar look was in the WBC. And that's a very special.
Players get up for that. Players get up for that.
Yeah, it's just a special day. It's not the grind of 162, your job. That's like an Olympic event that you just happen to go off on. For years, we've heard Tommy Edman as Nolan Gorman. I've heard these names. They still haven't, and I'm just looking at my own fan base. If you told me for 3 years one of my young players was ready to excel and they're still 260 hitter, I'm getting tired of hearing that. Now, I think Jordan Walker is a young promise and that he might have a good year, but I just don't see their lineup. It's aging out to me, and I really can't understand what they did in the offseason with their pitching staff. I see this is one of those cases where you're selling people on names, and if the production last year, Kyle Gibson was not good for Baltimore. He was not good for and Baltimore was a good team, and he was not good. Lance Lynn was not good last year. Mikolos was Mikolos, and Matz is Matz. They've been in St. Louis for years and know what they're getting from those guys. And Sonny Gray, when healthy, a great strikeout pitcher, but he gives up runs. Even when he's at his best, his ERA is a mid-3 ERA. And I don't know if this team is a mid-3 runs a game scoring team. So I don't like to be like this generally on teams because I can normally find some silver linings and stuff, but they're older and the moves they made, you have to be drinking in my opinion, you have to be drinking the St. Louis Kool-Aid to back these moves as, yes, this gets us. We're going to reverse our record from last year and be 91 and 71. I'm hard pressed to see that with what's on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny Gray is an absolute stud. He's the young. But the crazy thing is, he's 34 years old and he's the youngest pitcher on the staff. To me, that's absolutely insane. You already kind of mentioned the aging factor. I mean, you got Mikolas, who's 35. You got Landon Gibson, who's 36. I mean, these guys are more likely to be on the injured list than the All Star list. By the All Star break. I mean, Lance Lynn's already gotten himself tossed out of spring training. It's a freaking spring training game, bro. The umpires are practicing, you're practicing, everyone's practicing. Like, you're getting kicked out of a spring training game. I mean, that's kind of, I think, a preview of what Lance Lynn's going to give the St. Louis fan base this season. So that should be fun to watch. I am excited to see Sonny Gray. If he can repeat his success last season with his 2.79 ERA, then I think the Cardinals can make some noise. But the problem is last year he finished with an 8-8 record, but Minnesota had struggled putting up runs at times last season, and that's why he had so few wins, so many losses. And that's one area that I don't think the Cardinals should struggle in is putting up runs. But we got to have bigger years from Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Nolan has increased 29 strikeouts year over year from 22 to 23. His average is down 49 points. And I mean, his average is down 27 points. Paul Goldschmidt's average is down 49 points. I mean, these guys have not just slightly declined. I'm talking about like a ginormous decline. So okay, we'll see if they can kind of bring it back this season. But like I said, I'm not too high on the Cardinals as well. So the two guys I'm really focusing on for them this season is it's going to be Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray. If Sonny Gray can kind of maintain the success he had last season in Minnesota, and if Nolan Arenado can kind of be the Nolan Arenado we're used to, like I said, he was still able to. It's hard to say that someone hitting 26 home runs and 93 RBIs is a down year for somebody. But for him, that is. Do we think those are the kind of numbers he's going to be putting up from now on, or is that the new Nolan Arenado we should be expecting?
I think that's the Arenado going forward. I mean, he's still a Gold Glove third baseman, but offensively, the dip is here. It's been here, and I see some. Maybe I'll be wrong, and the offense will be better. But I don't. I think last year he had zero protection in that lineup, and when you start to lose that protection of some of these lineups, 30 home runs regresses down to 26, 25, and 120 RBIs because there's not the people on base for you as regularly anymore become the 90 RBIs. So some of it's his regression. Some of it, I believe, is team regression.
Dang, I didn't even think about it that way. I was thinking he was sucking, going to start sucking. But, I guess I'm just kidding. Obviously, Nolan Arenado is a stud. And I'm glad that we were able to watch him play. And I'm hoping that he does have a comeback season this year. And like I said, it's hard to say that a 266 batting average with 92 RBIs is a bad season for somebody. But, that's how great of a player that he truly is. But hey, we're on the home stretch. 9th inning, bottom of the 9th. We got one team left. Who is it? I forgot who it was. Who's left? It is the Milwaukee Brewers. So Milwaukee Brewers is the last NL Central team we're going to be covering this week. Again, appreciate everybody kind of hanging out, sticking around for the show tonight, and kind of learning. Hopefully, you learned some stuff about each team today. But with the Brewers, they finished last season 92 wins, 70 losses. They did win the NL Central last season. As you can see from that over-under there, Vegas has a steep regression this season. Hack, how's it looking for the Brewers on your side?
This is another one. What a difference the offseason makes. They lost Burns and Woodruff, and that's going to hurt any team. But the Brewers last year, they were based on pitching. The whole thing was we just scored 2-3 runs, and then our pitching staff on this thing, we don't have Devin Williams, who developed into one of the top closers in major leagues. Like Milwaukee was the opposite of Chicago. They had the lead in the 7th. You were pretty much shut down with that team. What was their strength is now one of their biggest weaknesses. And in losing Burns and Woodruff, they didn't really address offense with that. It's not like they got anything for the losses. So I'll take a homer pick. I love them adding Reese Hoskins. I hope that he's healthy this year. Healthy, he can hit home runs for them. I don't know if Reese Hoskins fits into this lineup the way he fit in to the lineup he's coming from. And to give you an example of that, I'll use the guy we talked about earlier, Carlos Correa. In that Houston lineup, that man looked like he was going to end up one of the best shortstops of all time. Now he looks like a defensive shortstop. Well, Reese Hoskins isn't a defensive first baseman. So I don't know how much Milwaukee's going to be into that all or nothing type of offense from him. Yelich has been there, professional. They have a great catcher. Contreras is finally, now I'm William. I'm not Wilson's brother. So I think he took a big step hit at the plate last year. But they don't have much. I like Sal Frelick, but he's more of a I don't know the right terms for it. Like a guy I like to root for, but as a Phillies fan, we have Bryce Harper in our 3-hole. You have Sal Frelick. Like they're a little bit different.
He's a place filler. He's a spot holder.
Yeah, I don't see the 92 wins this year. It really stinks. I thought last year they were set up with the playoff system and their 2 starters to do stuff, and that window really slammed shut this year for them. Unfortunately, it stinks when this happens, but happens to all the teams.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team made the playoffs, won the Central, and had to replace their manager at the end of the season. Craig Counsell, like we talked about, betrayed the Brewers faithful and went over to Chicago to coach the Cubs, and they in turn promoted assistant coach Pat Murphy from the bench to be the new head coach and the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I think that, like I said, I'm not sure what kind of coaching style he's going to have. If he's going to be aggressive, more small ball, if he's going to be stealing a lot of bases. I think with the signing of Reese Hoskins and also the signing of free agent Gary Sanchez, who's going to serve as backup catcher as well as designated hitter from time to time, I think they're going to be more going for more of the bigger pop in their lineup. So I think, like when you say Reese Hoskins may not fit in well with the kind of offense they want to run, we were also thinking about the Craig Counsell offense and the type of schemes that they had going over the last 9 years. So who knows what they might be bringing to the table this year? We might be looking at something like they may be going for all or nothing, below the top of the lineup with home run hitters. Who knows what we're going to see from them this season? But you mentioned Christian Yelich, and he's one of my focuses on this team. And we got Christian Yelich, and we got fastball Freddie Peralta. Let me see here. Here we go. So yeah, Christian Yelich, he batted .278 last season, 19 home runs, 76 RBIs. That's his best non-steroid season of his career. I just want to throw that out there. So he is, like I said, he is getting back to his old self, legally, of course. But yeah, he's up on RBIs, home runs, average, and his strikeout percentage is way down from previous seasons. And then we got fastball Freddie Peralta. Finished at 12-10 last season. 22 total decisions, which is crazy. It shows you that he goes kind of far into games. 3.86 ERA, but he has over 200 strikeouts, 210 to be exact. He's averaging 4 strikeouts per walk. This guy is not going to give you free bases, and he's one of the reasons that Milwaukee had a lot of success last year. Hack, what do you think? I mean, even with the loss of Corbin Burns to Baltimore, and the focal points will be more on Freddie Peralta and the rest of the staff, how do you feel like they're going to have as far as success with Freddie and Christian?
I think Yelich, like you said, like this version of him, he's never going to be the guy that he was, because he can't do what he's not there. In the beginning, there was talks of 40-40 and how many MVPs is he going to win? And those days are done. He's a good piece, but he's no longer the straw that stirs the drink. He's in the drink. And they need him to be the old style, the way this offense is set up. I think Freddie Peralta is going to have a good year. I think Freddie Peralta's in a very similar situation as Justin Steele. and they're both going to have great years for underperforming teams.
Okay. Let me see. What was the I forgot what the over-under was on this guys. All right, so these guys had them at a slight regression back down to 77.5. So that's a full 12 games under what they or sorry, 14 games under what they finished last season. Are you buying or selling? Over or under on this one, Hack?
You go under. I think they're gonna lose. It won't be much under. I don't think it's gonna be down to 50 games, something like that. But I think they're gonna be under. I think they're closer to a 70-win team.
Okay. It really honestly depends on what they do. For me, it depends on what they do with Willy Adames. I do think that the Dodgers may have reached out already or may be thinking about reaching out for his services at shortstop, depending on how the Mookie situation, shapes out. If it works out where he's the permanent shortstop for the rest of the year, then never mind. But if it turns out that Mookie might be more beneficial somewhere else on the team, and they do trade for Willy Adames, I think that the under is an easy choice. But I do think the Brewers are still one of the top teams in the Central. Except with Freddie Peralta, I do like what he brings to the table. Rhys Hoskins, I think, was a great add. I do think they're going to be over, but not by much. I think they're going to be right around that 82, 81, possibly of 81 season for the Brewers, in my opinion. All right, but that is the coverage for the AL and the NL Central for this week. Anything else you want to mention or talk about, Hack, about baseball related, or what was that? Oh yeah, who is going to win the Central? Hack, who do you think is going to win the Central?
I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Reds. I think this year we're going to see and not only the Reds. I think we're going to see a complete flip of the Central. I think the Reds and the Pirates are going now. You talked me up to them. Let's go Reds and Pirates at the top. The Brewers and the Cardinals fighting at the bottom, and the Cubs are just going to be hanging around doing whatever Cubs do. Yeah,
just sitting right there in the middle, just chilling. It's crazy. I'm agreeing with you on this one. I think it's a total flip flop in the NL Central. I do think that the roles are completely reversed. I think it's going to be. Who I think it's going to be, Cardinals, Brewers, Cubs, Reds. Take a listen. And if you think we're going to possibly make the playoffs, we're going to show you. We're going to take the division. I do think that, like I said, O'Neal Cruz could have an MVP caliber season. Mitch Keller, I think he's going to continue with success on the bump, and I think he's going to earn that $77 million. I'm going Pirates, baby. I got to take the Pirates in the Central. So that's crazy.
I like that. Look, I hope you're right. It gives us something to cheer about. And
could you imagine though?
7 other people that picked the Pirates, so you'll be on an elite group.
Me and all the players' wives picked the Pirates. No, but
I said 7, so that's only like a third. Players' wives.
Even the players aren't betting on themselves.
Them already booked their vacations for October.
And then last but not least. Imagine like Phillies, Pirates, dude. That'd be great. If the Pirates are as good as I think they're going to be, and the Phillies are as good as I think they're going to be, and with the Pennsylvania rivalry, in-state rivalry, that would be a great series. But no, all right, folks. Hack, anything else you want to add though? And we've covered the Centrals, we've covered the 7th inning stretch, covered the latest news.
I gotta this is a big week. We got the East coming up. The beast of this next week is going to be crazy. Chat, get ready because we got a lot of big players to talk about next week. We got to talk about the Phillies finally. I'm ready. Some Phillies, some Yankees, can't believe I'm saying the Orioles. The Orioles, it's going to be
I'm excited for the Blue Jays. I'm excited to talk about some Braves. Again, everyone, thank you so much for watching Up and In. This is our Central Division preview. Obviously, come back. This episode will be up permanently. So if you want to kind of rewatch it, take some notes, or if you want to just come see if we were right at the end of the season, this will be up and available. I'm Alex Black Elmore. That's Chris Hackney. We appreciate you. We'll see you folks next week. And as always, when life throws you up and in, throw on some Black. Take that and hack that shit to the park.